Well, good morning, North Point Church. It's great to see your faces this morning. Hey, my name's Caleb, and I get to help out on a team here as a young adult director, and I just want to say thanks so much for being here, and welcome to North Point. Just to give you a quick rundown of what you can expect today, we're going to sing some worship songs, and essentially that's just prayers to God. So whether you like to sing at the top of your lungs or you're kind of worried about your voice and you need to whisper it, whatever it is, just lean into that and have a great time with us. Also, we're going to do communion. So if you're watching online, now would be the perfect time to get some elements together, get you some grape juice, some Wonder Bread, whatever you have, so you can participate with us. And then we're going to hear a great message today. So I just want to say again, thanks so much for being here. Thanks for joining us. It's going to be a great day. So if you'll go ahead and stand if you're willing and join us in worship. It's going to be a great day. Let's sing together.
cannot be stopped. Come on, sing it out, move it. Mover of mountains, breaker of chains, Jesus is triumph over the grave. Sing hallelujah, the battle is won. Nothing can stand against our God. We stand on your victory.
we're going to take just a few minutes and take communion together. So if you came in and you didn't get a chance to get elements handed to you, which is just this little guy right here, we're going to have a few people walking around and slip your hand up, and if you want to partake and participate with us, they'll give you one just to make sure you can do this with us. So communion is something that we've done, that Christians have done all throughout history. It's something that we've always participated in, but that doesn't make it any less special. And in fact, Scripture tells us that on the night that Jesus was betrayed, he sat with his disciples, took some bread, broke it, and told them, hey, this is my body given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. And in the same way, he took a cup of wine and said, this cup is a new covenant given you in my blood that's poured out for you. And Jesus used something so small and insignificant, like a slice of bread and a cup of wine, to symbolize something that's huge for us, to symbolize a new covenant. And what I mean by a new covenant is it's a different way of living. It's no longer, if I do this, then God is going to do this for me. If I sacrifice all these things, then God will move. But this new covenant is now, since Jesus did this for me, I have this. Since Jesus died on a cross and sacrificed his life for me, I have freedom. Since Jesus died on a cross, I'm redeemed. This new covenant that Jesus brought in. And that doesn't mean we're not going to struggle. That doesn't mean we're not going to go through hard times. It doesn't mean we're not going to experience hurts and carry burdens in our life. But what this new covenant means is we don't do it alone. We don't do it by ourselves, and we don't have to carry these burdens just by our strength. So as we take a second and have communion together, I think there's a couple of things that we can remember. One, I think you can remember the sacrifice that Jesus gave. We can remember Jesus giving his life. And two, we can take a second and think about all these things that weigh us down, all these burdens that we've carried into this room, the things that we're worried about tomorrow for it's Monday and we're like, I don't want to go into work because I have to deal with this or I have to deal with that. We can remember all those things. And then we can take a second and remember that we're not going through that alone, and that Jesus is with us in the midst of our troubles, and Jesus is with us in the midst of our problems. So as we sing this next song, Fear Is Not My Future, we can remember that no matter how much fear we have, there's someone in the future that's bigger and better and stronger than any fear and doubt that we have. So as we go through this song, whenever you're ready, go ahead and take your communion.
Let him turn it in your favor. Watch him work it for your good. 'Cause he's not done with what he started. He's not done until it's good. So let him turn it in your favor. Watch him work it for your good. 'Cause he's not done with what he started. He's not done until it's good. So hello peace, hello joy, hello love, hello strength, hello hope. It's a new horizon. Hello peace, hello joy, hello love, hello strength, hello hope. It's a new horizon. And if you're ready for a breakthrough, just open up Fear is not my future. You are. Sickness is not my story. You are. Heartbreak is not my home. You are. You are. Yeah. Death is not the end. Oh, you are. Oh, you are. Fear is not my future. Oh, you are. You are. Sickness is not my story. Oh, you are. And you are. Heartbreak is not my home. Oh, you are. And you are. Death is not the end. Oh, you are. You are. Hello, peace. Hello, joy. Hello, love. Hello, spring. Hello, hope. It's a new horizon. And hello, peace. Hello, joy. Hello, love. Hello, spring. Hello, hope. It's a new horizon. Fear is not my future. Oh, you are. And you are. Sickness is not my story. Oh, you are. And you are. Heartbreak is not my home. Oh, you are. And you are. Death is not the end. Oh, you are. Oh, you are. Fear is not my future. Oh, you are. And you are. Sickness is not my story. Oh, you are. And you are. Heartbreak is not my home. Oh, you are. And you are. Death is not the end. Oh, you are. You are a story. You are a song. You're writing a story, Lord.
God, we thank you that those words are true, that we don't have to live from a place of fear. We can live in a place of confidence. We don't have to live in a life focused on our weakness, but we can live in a life focused on the strength you give us. That we have hope, that we have a future, that we have a promise to stand on. That you see us, that you care for us, that you want the best for us. So God, just like we go through communion and recognize the sacrifice you made for us, we sacrifice what we are going through, what we are up against, what we're walking in, and we give it to you, Lord. We love you, we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Thank you so much for worshiping with us. It's a great week. Hey, we're closing out our series, Zed Aim. There's been some great videos to do this little segue, right? This one's a good one too. Check it out.
Well, good morning. Hey, listen, it's 10:30. We could be a little more alive. Good morning. Oh, thank you. Hey, it's great to see you. It really is great to have you here. If you're watching at one of our other campuses, from Dream Center to Republic to Nixa, it's great to have you with us. If you're online, you can see me. I can't see you, which is always a weird thing to say, but glad you're with us as well. My name is Preston, and I'm the spiritual formation pastor here at North Point, and I get to talk to you about envy today. That's really exciting. We're ending our series on what's commonly referred to as the 7 deadly sins, and this one is envy. Now, I don't know when I actually first started having envy in my heart. I was probably born with this innate ability to be envious of people, but I can tell you when I remember having envy, and it was in middle school, high school, and then it just like took off from there. Then I've just been a pro at this thing since then. But in middle school, I wasn't really good at a whole lot of things. Sports didn't come easily to me. I remember, I think it was my freshman year in high school, I did javelin for like a semester of a semester. You know what javelin is? Javelin's where you run and you throw a stick, and that's for, I don't want to say this, but I will. It's for the people who aren't good at other sports. You run and throw sticks, okay? I was not even good at javelin. I did it, I think, like 2 weeks, and then I'm like, I'm not going that early to school for that anymore. And then when it came to like book smarts, I wasn't good at, it wasn't natural for me to make good grades. I mean, I did okay. There was one time, they say confession's good for the soul, so I'm about to do my soul a solid. There was one time I did white out my grade on a report card. Sorry, Dad, if you're watching this online, because it didn't come naturally, or I didn't want to do it. It happened, okay? But I wasn't the best at that. There was always someone better, stronger, bigger, smarter. But in middle school and high school, I got picked on a lot. You're like, is this like Preston's confession time? Is he just going to keep confessing things to us? Probably, but you don't need to respond. You just need to listen. I got picked on. Let me tell you about one of our bullies, one of my bullies. This was freshman year in high school. I would like to say that this was pre-Jesus, but I don't think it was, but I still did what I did, okay? This was freshman year in high school, and there was a bully who's bigger, stronger, taller, and I needed to beat him and make sure he doesn't bully me anymore, so I had to be smarter. I was in my freshman year, I was on the newspaper team in high school. Being on the newspaper team, the journalism staff of a high school just means you have some special privileges. One of them was I had access to a copy machine. You know what a copy machine is? They're like this tall. You can open the top. Typically, when you open the top, you copy paper. That's pretty normal. What I did was I had this plan. I was going to outsmart the bully. So I go over to the copy machine, and I look around to make sure nobody's around. I open the top. I don't know how to say this. I haven't said this story in such a long time. Actually, I said it first service, but before that it wasn't. I opened the top, and I Xerox copied a full moon, okay? I Xerox copied. I sat on the copy machine, not with my pants on, and then I hit copy. It was cold, and I did it black and white. I didn't want to waste the high school's money on colored printing for this. And then I folded that up, and I put it in my pocket. And I had a plan. I waited till the last period of that school day, which was math, and I had math with this bully. And I was like sitting over here. He was a few chairs over there, and we're taking a math test. Now, in this case, I was smarter, and so I'm watching him, and I'm waiting for him to finish his test. So I'm acting like I'm not done with my test yet. I'm like, oh, this is so hard. He's still working. He stands up, big guy, stands up, walks over to the tray to turn his test in. I stand up right after him. I walk over. He turns his test in. I act like I'm not doing anything. I take the Xerox copy of the moon out of my pocket, and I staple it to his test. And then I put my test on front of it. So who do you think got suspended for mooning the teacher that day? He did. There's no way to pin that on me until right now, this moment in time. He didn't show up the next day, or the next day. It wasn't until that next Monday he showed up. I was smarter. Listen, the moral of that story is revenge is a dish best served cold. Okay, that's the moral of that story. What I want you to get out of the story is there's always someone with more like these two letters here. Bigger, stronger, prettier, faster, skinnier, richer. There's always someone with more always. And this is the problem with envy, is it never stops. They're always there. And they don't even know you're in competition with them. In fact, I'll say this about myself. This is one of the worst parts about envy when I experience envy. I won't project this on you. I'm sure you don't ever do this. But for me, if I don't have more and I'm unhealthy, I will look at people who have less than my And because then it makes me feel superior you see. And before you know it, we're like in this competition, and no one knows they're competing with you. And it's so hard to find contentment when you're dealing with envy. And if you were at the last master class, you'll understand what I'm saying when I say some of you, if you're a 3 on the Enneagram, you don't care about you care about est, E-S-T. Like you want to be the best, the richest, the skinniest, the prettiest, the strongest. Or if you don't want to be that, you want to have those things as your own. And it just continues. Envy continues over and over and over again. And what makes it so hard, like right now at this moment in time, what makes it so hard, I don't have my phone on me, but there's apps on that phone, and one of them is Instagram. And you know the great thing about Instagram? You know what's really cool about Instagram? Neither do I. But there's an Instagram app, and Instagram just amplifies the and the S, and you're scrolling, and it's like, if I only had that, if I was only that, if I only had more, and it's just not possible to win. I think last year, I was on vacation with Lisa, and we were sitting on a beach, and I noticed people that would go halfway into the water. They'd kind of go halfway, and then they had other people taking pictures of them, but not pictures like when we're on the beach, we'll just do like selfies and whatever, but they're like taking pictures of them, and these people are kind of modeling, but they're not modeling. They want it to look natural, waves splashing on them, whatever. And I'm sitting down, and I start laughing, and I said, Lisa, what are they doing? And she said, oh, those are Instagram models. I didn't even know. I didn't know that was, and then they would go back and just scroll, and there's not a lot of people around them. In fact, there was no one around them. I'm not looking down on Instagram models. I'm just saying the competition, it's impossible to win. It's impossible to win. And then I feel bad for those of us on the other side of the screen that go, if I only had, that vacation, that life? Yeah, that's envy. I put it in your notes like this. There is no win in comparison. There's no way to win. And if we can get this in our hearts, it's impossible to win when we're trying to compare ourselves to each other. Envy is discontentment that's fueled by comparison. There's a lot of reasons we could be discontent in life, but envy is it's such a deadly sin, and because it is fueled by, can I have more? And est, and what it's fueled by is this: I don't have enough, and I'm not enough. And it's envy. Envy, in the Bible, there's a book called Proverbs, has some really cool phrases, tweetable phrases. If you want to tweet a phrase, you just open to the book of Proverbs and then just quote it. But one of them is that envy rots our bones, is what it says. Envy rots our bones. It's this imagery. Follow me here with this imagery. It's kind of gross, but it disintegrates what's inside you. It's not just, it's bad for you. It actually melts you away. It's rotting you away. And anytime something's that destructive internally, it's going to show up externally. Envy that rots our bones inside is actually going to cause massive disorder on the outside as well. So what do we do when we get envious? Well, when we get envious and we are stirred up because we're comparing, and it creates discontentment, well, then we have nothing else to do but to gossip. And it can come out as gossip. And we just talk about how, look, they don't have their life together. I would never want something like that. And it's all stirred by envy. Or we use our funds, our money in ways that it's like we're just trying for and est all the time. It shows up, envy shows up in ways that, to be honest, you know that, I don't even have to say this out loud, but you and I know we don't want to show up that way. We don't want to. And this isn't a message of condemnation if you have envy. We all have envy. There's a new, different way to live. We don't have to live that way. We don't have to. We know envy kills our relationships, but worst of all, it kills our peace. It kills our ability to have peace. And I know you're probably sitting here, you're like, this is a really inspiring message about envy. I'm so glad I showed up on a Sunday morning. We will be inspired on how to get out of it, but I just want to bring it to the surface and say, look, I've dealt with envy all my life. I'm sure you've dealt with envy, and there are systems in place in your life and in culture and society that just amplify envy. So if you're like, I'm so done with this, there's no way to win in this, I actually don't like the feeling of when I'm envious, I don't like how I show up in the world when I'm envious, then we can change it. We can change it. There's a guy named Solomon in the Bible. When he was younger, he prayed for wisdom, okay? He could have prayed for anything, and it seems like God would have honored his prayer, but he prayed for wisdom. And it says God honored that and gave him wisdom. And he's recorded in the Bible as one of the wisest men that have ever lived. So I don't know if you're a Bible believer or if you're a Jesus follower or if you don't, you're just kind of here exploring and you heard there's free coffee. Okay, well, we're just glad you're here. But wherever you're at, you'll find that even from a historical standpoint, Solomon, he's got a lot going on. Like, he has wealth. Well, I wouldn't say this next one is he's got going on. He has wives, plural. He's got a lot of things, okay? He kind of had it all back then. One of the wisest men to ever live. And he writes about envy. He writes it in a book called Ecclesiastes. Now, Ecclesiastes, I do not suggest you read before bedtime. I don't even suggest that our Kid Point teach our kids verses from Ecclesiastes because it's just about life is meaningless. Life is meaningless. So we will get to a lot of hope, don't you worry. But he does write about envy. Here's what he says in chapter 4, verse 4. He says, "And I saw that all toil and all achievement spring up from one another's envy of another." That right there, that phrase is pretty incredible. You know the Hebrew word for all? You know what that is? All. It just means all, okay? It means all. So here's what he says. I saw, like the people Solomon did life with, the people he oversaw and the people that were peers to him, and the people he would look up to, which would be few. He says, I just noticed they work so hard in life, and it's spurred on by envy. And then he says, this too is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. That phrase, a chasing after the wind. You're going to see that over and over again today. A chasing after the wind. Look, in Springfield, I'm sure in Nixa and Republic, we've experienced a lot of wind, okay? We've experienced, it comes at the weirdest time that I'll wake up and I'll be like, how did our furniture, our front patio furniture get in the street again? It just blows away. For you, you're probably like, I once had a tree before 2 weeks ago that I thought was really strong in our front yard. You don't have that tree anymore. We've experienced some wind. Can you imagine how stupid it looks to chase wind? Just think about the phrase, chase wind. You're like, okay, why would I chase? If I'm chasing the wind and I'm trying to catch the wind, why? Why? What are you catching? You're like, wind. Yeah, for what reason? I don't know. Because I'm busy, and I want more. And by the way, if you chase the wind long enough and the wind's strong enough, the wind starts to drive you, doesn't it? It starts to steer you, and where you go, you start to follow the wind. And he says, envy is like that. And this is coming from someone who had and est in his life. And he's like, and here's what I want to tell you. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. The word envy derives from the Latin word that means non-sight. We don't have clear sight when we're envious. When envy is springing up in our hearts and then showing up in our lives, we don't have good sight. We don't see clearly. There's a parable I want to tell you. It's not from the Bible. It's not a true parable. It has to do with the talking eagle. So If you're like, you think that eagles talk and that happened once upon a time? No, it's just parable. It's just a story that tells us truth. And there's an eagle that was noticing there's another eagle that could fly higher than him. And he's getting envious, right? And that eagle had a bigger wingspan. And so this eagle turns to an archer and says, hey, if you shoot that eagle down, I think that eagle is going to look really good in your house. And so the archer says, okay, and pulls out an arrow and goes, oh, wait, I don't have any feathers on this arrow. I have no feathers to make it fly. So this eagle says, I'll give you a feather. Plucks one of its feathers out, gives it to the archer. The archer then shoots the arrow, but it doesn't go far enough because that eagle goes higher and gets further away. And so then the archer says, I need more feathers. So the eagle, you get where their story's going, the eagle keeps plucking feathers, gives it all until the eagle doesn't have enough feathers to fly away, and the archer turns around and shoots this eagle. And it's like, this is what envy does, is I need what I can see so bad that I will rot away in the process of getting it. And it's like chasing the wind. It makes you, it's non-sight. You can't see clearly anymore. The eagle couldn't see. This is a bad idea. Being around an archer is a bad idea. And not being able to fly is even worse. And I'm telling you, here's what envy does to us. It blinds us, it binds us, and it makes us boil. Let me explain these real quick. It blinds us. It's clear in the definition. It's non-sight. But even more, let me say it this way. When you see someone who's accomplished something in their life, or they have what you want, you don't see the person, now you see the power, or you see the position, or you see the possession. You don't, it just blinds you. You can't see the person anymore. It binds you, and again, you know this because we've all done this before, that our attention is totally on the thing or on the possession. It's just, we're bound now, and it's just so difficult to spend our time how we should, our money how we should, our relationships how we should. It's just so difficult to be at peace. It binds you, and then it makes you boil. It becomes very emotional. Envy makes us not just say like, I wish I had more, or I wish I was stronger, or no, envy makes me say things like this. I look in the mirror and go, I'll never have. Why can't I? And it starts to become an identity thing. It makes you boil on the inside. And anytime something becomes like really emotional, a healthy practice for us is to create resolutions. Like if you're someone that gets angry easily, maybe a good resolution for you is you just declare, it's a resolution that you say, I don't yell. I don't yell. I'm not a person who yells. Resolutions are helpful when we're facing emotional sins. And so this is what we're going to say. We're going to make a declaration together, and then we'll continue in this, in how we take aim at envy. But here's the declaration. This is kind of like our line in the sand, okay? That I mean, it would have been a better illustration if I had a pile of sand up here. But this is our line in the sand. This is our declaration because of what Solomon said. I'll say it first, and we say it together. I will not chase after the wind. Okay? And you're like, that's so stupid. Oh, it's even stupider to chase after the wind, okay? So we're going to do this together. Let's make this declaration. Repeat after me. I will not chase after the wind. Yeah. When it becomes emotional, and it's now your identity, that you're not going to be enough, you're not going to have enough. No. Remember, with the line in the sand, I will not chase after the wind. And then Solomon continues, and he shows like, hey, when you have the opportunity to do this, which you'll have this opportunity, don't worry, there's plenty of opportunity to be envious, okay? When you have the opportunity, there's 3 things you can do. One of them is good, the other 2 are pretty destructive. Here's what he says. It's just in the next 2 verses. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 5 and 6 say, fools fold their hands and ruin themselves. Better one handful with tranquility than 2 handfuls with toil and chasing after the wind. He uses a word tranquility, which is not a common, I don't know the last time you used that word. It just makes you sound so spiritual if you can use it. Tranquility really just means like peace. And he said, fools fold their hands and ruin themselves. Another version says they waste away. But then there's this option where you can have a little bit of something and it brings you peace, and that's enough. Or you can chase the wind again, like this. And by chasing the wind, you have 2 handfuls of nothing. So let me illustrate this way. It's been very hot in Springfield, like super hot. It's hot everywhere. I'm not making a point about global warming. I'm just saying the globe has been warm, okay? Everywhere it's been this way. Let's say we're all at a soccer game and we're sitting down in our lawn chairs and I fold my hands and I just go, oh Lord, it's so hot. It's just hot. But I don't move. And I just sweat. And then you're like, yeah, the soccer game's done. Let's move on and go to Andy's. I'm like, no, I'm just going to fold my hands and ruin myself. What would happen is I would first start to like get a sunburn, and then before you know it, I'm like dehydrated, and then I die. I just fold my hands, and I'm like, it's hot. It's so hot. I do nothing. And he said, that's an option. When you face a situation, one of the options is you can fold your hands and do nothing and complain. Later on, he'll call that a miserable business. Or, here's option number 2. We could be at a soccer game, and I could sit down, and I have this bottle of water, and I'm like, whoa, it's really hot out here, huh, guys? But this is enough. This will be enough. Now, it's not everything. I mean, maybe I wish I had shade, and I wish I had a sprinkler, like a little mister on me, and I wish I had, but it's enough. This is enough. And bring me peace. This will bring me peace. This is enough. If this isn't enough in my heart, then here's the third option. Third option is this. I could be like, hey, it's so hot outside, I need water. And not just, and you'd be like, yeah, but Preston, you have your water bottle. I'm like, no, that's not enough. I need more. Like, I need one to pour on my head. I need the other one to drink, okay? I need water. And I'm then start running around, where do I get water? Where do I get water? And before you know it, I have 2 hands toiling after something that's not going to happen when I had one hand that brought me peace. And what he's saying is, listen, in life, there's always more. There's always more that you'll want, but when your comparison stirs up and fuels this discontentment, what you'll find is your soul is like grabbing onto a charged fence that is like, but can I have more and more and more and more? And then the more you do that, the less peace you have. And if you're addicted to envy, like so many of us are, peace feels like boredom. But it's not, it's contentment. To say, I have enough. I have enough today. Oh, it's not everything I want. I don't have everything I want. I wish I had certain things, but I have enough. I have enough today. This lesson, I learned, ready for another confession? I learned really, this is a hard lesson to learn when Lisa and I first got married. We, I don't know, 3 years into our marriage, we went on the game show, Let's Make a Deal. I don't know if you've ever seen that game show, but we were actually on the game show. And someone afterwards said, after first service said, it's been my dream to go on a game show. I said, talk to Lisa. She's been on Wheel of Fortune. She's been on this. She's somehow, I don't know, that's going to be her retirement. It's just more and more game shows. But we're on this game show, and you have to dress up to be on this game show. I don't know why you have to dress up, but she dressed like a flower, so I dressed like a bee, okay? And we looked for the picture, and I am so happy to tell you we could not find a picture of her dressed like a flower and me dressed like a bee. We go to this game show. Wayne Brady's the host, and he's looking around. He'll do different like little games and then give away prizes. And he goes, okay, now what I'm looking for is I need a couple. I need a couple for this next game. And he's walking around, and I'm in my bee outfit. I'm like, come on. I'm like buzzing in the bee way, I'm like, come on, let's. And then Lisa's got her flower petals around, and she's like, pick us. And he points to us, brings us down. Listen, I'm so excited, okay? I am so thrilled because I'm about to win something big. I don't know what it is, but it's going to be big, and let's make a deal. We sit down like this, back to back, and he gives us a whiteboard. He said, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to show you 2 items, and first we'll go with Lisa, 2 items we think that she'll like, and then you, Preston. And when I show you the 2 items, if both of you write down the same item that you think she likes and you show the camera, then she gets it. And then we'll do 2 items for you. I'm like, oh, we got this. Now, we'd only been married like 3 years, so have a little grace with me if I get this wrong. Now, we've been married about 15 years. I'd probably still get this wrong, okay? This is the first thing that they show. He says, okay, first up is a handbag, which is a fancy word for a purse. It's a handbag. It's a really nice handbag. And when I say nice, he even said, they say the price on these things because it's also an advertisement. It's like over $2,000 handbag. I'm like, whoa, that's a nice handbag. I don't even carry handbags. That's a nice handbag. And then he said, or a year's worth of manicures and pedicures. I just want to see a show of hands. How many of you would have chosen the handbag? Raise your hand. Lisa, you're here. I want you to look around. How many of you would have chosen manis and petties? Thank you. That's exactly what I chose. So I write down manis and petties. She writes down handbag. We show the camera, and he's like, oh, sorry, you didn't get anything. I'm like, what? Later on, she goes, Preston, I was just going to sell the handbag for the money. I'm like, well, I don't know that. Okay, well, so I'm thinking I don't want to spend the money on manicures and pedicures. Okay, so then they show 2 items for me. One is a bunch of power tools and this tool chest. And you're like, wow, you're really impressed with that. Yeah, but remember, like in school, even in wood shop, I didn't have okay? So I'm looking at this, and I'm like, that's nice. Then he shows flat screen TV with surround sound Bose stereo system. I'm like, easy. My wife knows I don't fix anything at the house. So I write down TV, stereo system. She writes down surround sound stereo system. We show the camera, and he says, congratulations, that's yours. And I remember, listen, if you ever find this, send it to me. But we looked. I screamed in a bee outfit on national television. I was so excited. I stood up and started screaming. And then he said, or, stop it. He said, or you can risk it all for what's behind curtain number 2. Now, how many gamblers do we have in here? I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. So I'm sitting there going, oh, I want more. Like, I want more. You know what could fit behind curtain number 2? A car. A car can fit behind curtain number 2. I want more. And then I turn to Lisa, and everyone's shouting, and I'm like, what do I do? And she says, well, you won it, so you make the choice, which is another way of saying, your funeral, honey, right? I hear behind me everyone going, curtain 2, curtain 2. And so I just joined in the chorus, I just said like, curtain 2. And then it opens, and it was what they call on the show a zonk. And here's the sound effect for a zonk. Wah, wah, wah. Lost it all. I think they ended up sending me $100 because they send everyone $100 who's on the show. So I got that. I'm watching. I'm in the middle of this situation. I can feel envy, and different than greed, envy of being like, wow, that stereo system's better than like all my friends. Oh, I could have something nicer. And I remember these feelings of curtain 2 and just lose it. Instead of in one hand, I had peace, but in the other, I'm like, let's chase the wind, baby. Let's chase the wind. And this is what we do. Curtain 2, what's behind curtain 2? Nothing. Curtain 3, what's behind curtain 3? Nothing. All the while, Solomon says, there is an option of living with contentment. You don't have to go curtain 2, curtain 3, curtain 4, all your life of like, what's the next thing that I can have? Or what's the next thing I can be? No, there is an option of like, hey, I'm okay in this moment. I have one handful of peace. And then he tells a story in the next few verses. He says, again, I saw something meaningless under the sun. There was a man all alone. This is what envy does. It does create you to be all alone. It doesn't bring people closer to you because the closer they get, the more envious you get, so it pushes them away. There's a man all alone. He had neither son nor brother. There was no end to his toil. Yet his eyes were not content with his wealth. And then he says these two things. One's a question. Well, both are questions. For whom am I toiling, he asked, and why am I depriving myself of enjoyment? This too is meaningless, a miserable business. For whom, for all you grammar people out there, for whom am I toiling? Why am I doing this? Who am I doing this for? Who do I just like work so hard for? And the next promotion and the next thing, and listen, it's okay, like, to improve, continue to improve. But when it's driven by comparison and it's causing discontentment and you just can't be content with what you have, who are you doing this for? Who? And if we say, for my kids, I'm trying to build a legacy for my kids so that when I'm not here, then they will have wealth and they'll be fine. Well, guess what? What about when you are here? What about when you are here? That instead of chasing more, that it's like, I'm not going to chase the wind anymore. Who are you toiling for? We would say maybe, some people would say, I'm doing this for my mom and my dad. Maybe you don't say that out loud, but some of your parents aren't even with you and you're toiling for the approval of, they're not here. Some of you would say, I'm toiling because I have this competition with myself because when I was younger, I never made it and now I can make it. Who are you doing this for? For God? Listen, there's no way to impress God. There's like, God's already deeply in love with you and has given himself for you. And like, if you're like, I'm doing this for God, we talk about that a lot here, but that not to do things for God, but that there's nothing you can do, that God's grace has already given to you. Who do we do this for? It's a question we should ask ourselves. And then he says, and this keeps me, why am I not enjoying life? Why am I not smiling more? Why am I not laughing more? Why am I not more present? Why am I? Because I'm lost in envy. Why do I not enjoy life? So this is envy. We've brought it to the surface. Now we're going to take aim at it, okay? 3 decisions you can make every single day. I try to make them simple. You can make these 3 decisions to not just like help further yourself from envy, but to kill envy, okay? To take aim at it. Here's the first decision. You look at others for inspiration, not imitation. Not imitation, inspiration. Okay? I look to people, there are some incredible stories within North Point, within this church that have people, you who have overcome like incredible odds. And your stories of perseverance or of new beginnings and how you participate in what God's doing in your life, those are meant to inspire all of us. In fact, even as a staff, we'll talk, not like talk behind your back in a bad way. We'll talk like, we ask each other this question every week. What story is there that's reminding us of why we do what we do? We're on mission. What story is there? And your stories are brought up. And it is inspiring. But we should never say, oh, well, I need to be that person to be someone. It's just not true. It's not true. The second thing is this, the second decision you can make. Count your blessings, not your neighbors. Count your blessings. This is an old school thought, isn't it? That grandma might have told you, you just need to count your blessings. And grandma was right. Counting your blessings changes actually the chemistry of your brain. and it kills envy. My counselors told me before, have a gratitude journal where you just write, here's what I'm thankful for. It's a gratitude journal. It's not just my counselor, there's a lot of counselors who would say that that's a practice you could have. In the book of Acts, let me do kind of a shameless plug here for our groups that are starting. Our small groups across all campuses are starting in September, okay? A big way that we do small groups is called JXP. It's the Jesus Experience. And last semester we went through the book of Luke, and then we're going to go through the book of Acts together. And it's fun. We read the Bible together, ask each other questions, and then we practice as if we're actually following Jesus, because we are. And we do practice together, and it lasts for about 8 weeks. Well, in the book of Acts, in the end of chapter 2, I'm going to give this away. In the end of chapter 2, it talks about that the early Christians, the early Jesus followers, the early church, they were marked by the opposite of envy. They actually sold their possessions, they gave their stuff away to help other people. Comparison for them wasn't even on the map. It was literally not how much can I fill my hands with, it was how much can we let go of and still live, because we need to help each other. We have too much, and we need to help. And guess what? They had way less than what we have. Count your blessings. If you are interested in helping people live that way, there is an opportunity that you can sign up to be a JXP leader. We have trainings coming up next week at some of our campuses, and then a few weeks after that in Republic. But I'm telling you, if that's the way that you're like, I want to help people live in a way that fights envy, that spurs on generosity, you can do that. That's a very practical way. You can lead a group. We have opportunities. You're going to see a video soon. We have opportunities to serve. You can serve in different areas. One of the ways to kill all 7 deadly sins in one shot, silver bullet, you ready? Is through serving. It's serving. It helps you get outside of yourself. How you serve is up to you. We would love if you would help in kids or whatever, but how you serve. But we want you to serve in your communities. This counting your blessings actually helps you give your blessings away, okay? And the third one is this, and we went through this before, we're going to go through it again because it's just throughout the passage. Be resolved that you are not a wind chaser. It's just the line in the sand, okay? I don't chase the wind. You do these 3 things every day. I'm inspired by people, but I don't have to be them or have what they have. I count my blessings. I have peace with what I have. And I don't chase the wind. I don't do that. But envy is in not every, but it's in so many of our stories. Let me just point them out to you. Take a kid's story like Toy Story. Envy is in Toy Story. Woody is envious because of Buzz's relationship with Andy. Take one of my favorite movies, The Count of Monte Cristo. That you have a person who has a fiance that's beautiful, and they're going to go off and live a life together, and he's rich and has everything, and he's handsome, and he has a best friend that's envious of their life, and he just self-destructs their relationship and tries to get everything, ends up dying in the end. It's driven by envy. You have a major story like Snow White. Snow White is a great story of envy, right? Where you have the queen saying, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? Fairest, right? E-S-T. And then the mirror's like, Snow White. Snow White. That's not what you want to hear. And then you see it rots her bones. She literally becomes this nasty-looking witch and dies. She becomes the opposite of what she was hoping to be. Envy is in stories that shape us all throughout history, and it's just in humanity. And then listen, then God comes on the scene in Jesus. And Jesus has no envy in his heart. But he also doesn't have a lot. You realize, if you've read the biographies of Jesus, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, you'll notice Jesus doesn't have riches. He doesn't even have good looks. There's a passage in the Old Testament that talks about and prophesies about him. He's not going to be the best looking. Jesus even says, foxes have holes to sleep in. Birds have nests, and the Son of Man, talking about himself, has no place to rest his head. He doesn't have a lot, but he has everything. He's God. And he shows up on the scene, and to all the envious hearts he encounters, he shows them, you don't need more. What you might need is less. You might need less, and then you can have everything. You don't need more to have everything. You need less. And he shows up, and he offers himself up, and he lives this life. Oh, and he says this thing where he says, I came to give life and life abundantly. To say to all the hearts with envy, there's a different way to live. Not with or est, but following him. And yeah, there's in the process of following Jesus, you may get promotions and you may get the things that you want, and you're going to have nice vacations, but you're also going to have suffering, and you're going to have grieving, and you're going to have disappointment. And all of those things, none of them should spur discontentment, because Jesus would say, I understand. I know that way of life. Keep following me. Keep following me. And it's what we want, don't we? We would prefer, if we're being honest, to experience life with one hand with peace instead of a life of toil, hoping we can catch the wind when we can't. And that's what Jesus offers. I'm going to pray for us, and then there'll be a video that comes up about some of our favorite volunteers that serve in kids. And the decision's up to you of which life you'd want to choose. Envy is really easy, but it's very destructive. And then living a life with peace is sometimes really hard, but it's very life-giving. And I'm just going to pray that we choose the latter. So let's pray. God, we are so grateful that even though envy is all throughout stories and it's all throughout history, it's all throughout our history, that there is a different way to live. So would you help us to have the strength to do that? That we would say, we are not wind chasers. We don't do that. We don't chase the wind. Not that we feel condemnation in this moment, but an invitation into a different way of living, where we're more present, we're more joyful, where we experience life and life abundantly. So I pray for that, God. Give us the strength to choose that sort of life. In Jesus' name, amen. Let's watch this video.
I really like volunteering in Kid Point. It gives me a chance to be with the preschoolers and kind of give them their first real taste of knowing who Jesus is. And their answer to really every question is with a big hand wave, Jesus. And it's just so fun to have time with them.
I love my kids. It's my most favorite things to do. Actually, I will volunteer in any age group because the kids just fill my heart with joy when you get a little bitty hug or they remember your name. It just fills my heart with so much happiness.
I just love doing Kid Point. Each week it's the highlight of my week to just be a bright light in these kids' lives, especially here at the Dream Center. A lot of these kids come from different backgrounds, different stories. They all have something that they bring with them to Kid Point, and so every week I just love pouring into them and just sharing that love of Jesus with them.
The Twos Room is a lot of fun. And at Kid Point, we do tend to focus on the first part of the North Point mission statement, which is to create a safe place. And it is a safe place for your kids, but it's also a safe place for adult volunteers. So if you're sitting in Big People Church and you're wanting to expand your horizons, expand your community, meet more people, Kid Point is a great place to do that. Plus, it's a lot of fun back here. You don't have bubbles in Big People Church. You don't have slime in Big People Church. There's not a single animal cracker in the entire auditorium. All the fun stuff is back here in Kid Point. So grab your crayon and your connection card, write your name, your phone number, your email address, and we'll serve Kid Point on the back. Somebody will be in touch with you.
Oh, I love that. Kid Point is one of the best places to serve. And if, like Everett said, if you're someone that's like, I need some community, I'd love to make new friends, I'd love to connect with more people, Kid Point's the best place because some of the best people that I know volunteer in Kid Point weekly. Or if you're like me and you're just like, hey, I really love animal crackers, Kid Point is the best place to go because they have tubs of them. So if you watch that video, like, man, I can invest a couple hours a month into serving and being with the little North Pointers back there. Like Everett said, write on that card. In a few moments, we're going to pass some buckets. Write on that card that you'll serve, put your name and number, and we'll reach out to you for that. Also, when you came in, you might have noticed a table out there with these cool little clear bags. We're in give back season, which is one of my favorite times at North Point. So right now we're getting ready for our back to school give back. So if you have already filled out a bag, thank you, or filled up a bag, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. But if you haven't, next week is the last week that you'll have to turn those bags in. So if you haven't done that yet, you can go out there, grab a bag. There's a small little shopping list for things to fill up. Just buy them, and then you'll see those bins out there with the big red flags. Just drop them in there. But if you've already participated in that, thank you so much. And if this is your week, thank you so much. But this is also our time to give. So ushers, you guys can come on forward. There's also our time to give. So there's 3 ways you can give. You can give in person, you can give online, or you can give via text message. However you want to do that, we appreciate it. And if this is your first time, one of my favorite things we do here, if you're a first-time guest, we actually want to make a donation to a local nonprofit in your honor. So if you fill out that connection card, put that it's your first time, we're going to reach out to you with a list of local nonprofits for you to choose from for that donation to go to. Okay, so ushers, go ahead and pass those buckets. A few things to let you know. Preston actually mentioned it in his message, but he mentioned JXP, which was our groups that we do. So if you were a part of that last semester, you got to experience how cool that is and probably build some really awesome relationships. But we have a great opportunity coming up again to where you can actually lead a JXP group. So if you're interested in becoming the JXP leader, Sunday, August 13th, next Sunday, after the 10:30 service, we're going to have just a lunch and a meeting for you to get some information on what being a JXP group leader looks like. We'll have lunch and we'll have childcare, so there's no worries on what you need to do there for food or childcare. All that will be provided. But if you're interested in being a JXP leader, definitely join us after the 10:30 service next week. And we also start a new series next week called Minor League, which is going to be awesome. We're gonna learn about some characters in the Bible that you actually might not have ever heard about. So you definitely want to be here next week because it's going to be a really good time. So what I'll go ahead and do, have everyone stand. Thank you so much for being here tonight, or this morning, excuse me. Y'all have a great one. Have a great weekend.
Well, you just think that I'm some great survivor.